Machst du, Levi? De rest večere. Saper.
The video worked out?
Huh? What do you say? You and your mute button.
Your internet's a little bit low, but I was asking if video worked out.
My internet is low. Wat kan ik dan? I'm on full bars here. Reb Chaim Levi Klein. We have a chashuv guest here tonight from South Africa. You should get him to bring one night for you. He has nice things, beautiful stories and zechronis. He won't put his camera on. What's coming done? What's now? Now I froze or you froze, Levi? Oh, there you are, Mendele. Okay, you say when to start.
I think we can unfangen. If you want to wait 1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute. It's 8 o'clock, 8:01. English even.
Where's Garari? I have a story with involves his father, and if he comes on, if not, I'll say it anyway. If he comes earlier. Okay.
What's up with some nice story you heard in the last 24 hours?
I realized no, it's not that. I realized now it's 30 years from. In hindsight, it's a tremendous mayfis I had from the Rebbe.
30 years, Nun Aleph.
Nun Aleph now was during the Gulf War and it's gewendet in Freilach.
Yeah.
But
You were in Eretz Yisrael?
No. I was in here. Nothing to do with the Gulf War. I'm saying during that Tkufa.
Yeah.
Yud Shvat and Yud Aleph Shvat, but nicht for jetzt. It'll take a few minutes. Okay, you say when to start.
Okay. 8:01. We can turn on Fangen.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. So we're gonna share some pictures from two Yud Shvat Fabrengens that I found in my collection. One is Yud Shvat Tovshin Chav Daled. And how do I know it's Tovshin Chav Daled? The old black and whites. How do you know? Well, the last picture will tell it. It comes with an interesting, cute little story. And the second set of pictures is from Yud Shvat Tovshin Lamed Hey, which is a very special Yud Shvat. It was 25 years. It was a very major moment. Many delegations came. The mayor of New York came. We'll get to that in a few minutes. All in the 10 minutes that we have. So let's start with this. Okay. So here you have the old 770 downstairs. It's already built. The old Oren Kodesh. And the Rebbe is davening. Okay, this is Yud Shvat Tovshin Chav Daled, 1964. Okay, they're not necessarily in order. This is in the morning, and remembers the old hats the kids used to wear. I was zeichet to have one of these hats as well. This is what everyone in the kids in New York used to wear. So this is even in my years as a child, we used to hang around in Ganedna Tachten before they locked it. Lamed Ches it became locked, but before then, you used to hang around and you always waited there. The Rebbe would come up, and you'd stand there, and they would smile at you, wave, and then who gets to kiss the mezuzah first after the Rebbe touched it? This is similar to the previous picture, but a bit further back, a bit clear. You can see there's someone hanging out on top. This is the old Oren Kodesh, not like today's.
Rabbi, I mute you by mistake.
Oh, have I been mute the whole time?
No.
No, just 1 second. I muted by mistake. Sorry.
I don't know what used to be. Oh, this is from the windows. No, in the back of 770 till today, there's still windows. So this was the shul, but this is the front of the shul. It used to be the colored windows, if you remember. So this is taken from there. Now, interesting thing is, I don't know if anyone ever noticed. Let's make it bigger. The Rebbe had a minig. The Rebbe had a minig that it says in Sefer Minhagim, the Rebbe brings down that for Yartzeit we light a Shaiva candle. Because Shaiva is Rashi Tevis for Kitzu V'rananu Sheichne Ofer. And the Rebbe wanted that it should actually be not just in a glass, the Rebbe wanted a candle as well. So every year on Vav Tishrei, Yud Shvat, Chav Ov, and later Chav Beishvat, somebody, I don't know who it was, someone was in charge, they'd get a big piece of beeswax, and they'd put a string in it, and they put it into salt or soil, and it was wrapped nice in a vase with silver foil, so it looked very fancy. Good malchusdik, silver foil from Essenbench, or I don't know where it was for the sandwich. And there was two of them. We can't see the second one here. So this is the electric menorah, and then there's licht over here. There's 5 candles, but 2 of the 5 was always this big Shiva candle. The other 3 were regular Shiva glasses, and that was always there. It's an interesting thing that you don't see around today. This is it's something that the Rebbe wanted. I don't know the full story behind it, but it was something that the Rebbe wanted to be like that. It should be 2 of them should be candles. Okay. Another thing which you have in the picture, you don't have anymore today, is the chandeliers. The chandeliers were there when they built the 770. Some say that the Rebbe paid for them, but they were there until the renovation of 770 before Gimel Tammuz Tovshin Nun Hey. There were still chandeliers. I don't know where the chandeliers went. I remember we went to New York for the first Gimel Tammuz, first yard site, and they were gone. And there's a whole student. The Rebbe paid for the chandeliers. Where did they go? Don't know where they are. There was about 6 chandeliers, I think, if I remember correctly. It was always in the back part of 770. This is already Shachris, and it's Krishma, obviously. Here's my father, so this is already, father came in Elul Chav Aleph. This is Yud Shvat Chav Daled, as we said. The Rebbe always wore short sleeve shirts. Arrow Kent was the name of the company. The Rebbe always had short sleeve shirts. Well, you've seen in Manchester, they have 2 shirts. Okay, this is the Davina. I can't recognize anybody else over here. Don't know who this is. Looks familiar, but I don't remember who it is. But you see, everyone was close up there, up to the Rebbe. So it was a Sheni Chamishi, and so this is laning. This is with the back. So today, this is behind the bleachers, or there's no bleachers anymore, behind the porch. That tunnel that's there today in 770. This shafis, but this was the wall of 770. This was the side wall of 770, because the 770, the back part used to be the driveway. There was a parking lot there. So this was the Eastern Parkway is here, Union Street is there, and this is the back wall of 770. Anybody here? This is Leibel Alevsky. If you know Leibel Alevsky from Cleveland, this is Leibel Alevsky. It looks like Isaac Shvei. This could be Nassim Garari, I'm not sure. This could be Yosel Reitzes, I'm not sure. Okay.
There used to be a door on that wall that went into the Frierdiker Rebbe's library.
Yeah, so that would be the door going in. That's further down over here, towards the beginning of the building.
They just recently blocked it off.
Wait. You mean there was a door? Okay.
Under the bleachers, you can go into the...
Yeah, there was a door there. There was another door further down. There was a door at the end, because originally when these were garages under the building. It was a garage and stuff. There's a picture of the Frierdiker Rebbe coming out, going into a car from there. You can see the pictures from the early years in the Yuds, before the Yuds, in the Shins. So there was a garage there, and there was some side doors from the building. Yeah. And then that became the door into the basement, the cellar, which was where the library was. Yeah, correct. This is David Raskin. He was the Balkari. Okay, so this is now the Farbrengen of Yud Shvat, Tavshin Chav Daled. This is obviously the Maimer, Bosel Gani. This is Rabbi Yolis, Rabbi Mentlik, Shalom Poizner, Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Simpson, Rabbi Shmuel Levitten, Rabbi Rifkin. I think this is Peretz Mochkin, but I'm not sure. Rabbi Chadakov. This is Vihester from Ligud Harabonim. He didn't have a beard in those days. And then he used to come to the Rebbe, the big Fabrenur. His name slipped my mind. Later on, he had a beard. I forgot his name. Binyamin Gardetsky. I don't know who this is. Okay, this is the last picture of this Tosh Chavdalet. This is Reb Zalman Jaffe from Manchester. Reb Zalman Jaffe. Now the story here was that here's Rabbi Weinberg, Misha Pinchas Katz, Kalman Brickman. This is a Felig from Montreal, Schellenberg Gardetsky, Rabbi Hendel, Rabbi Yael on that side, Binyamin Gardetsky, could be Schellenberg Weinberg, Levi Weinberg from Manchester's father, I'm not sure. Yisrael Shimon Kalmanson, the Rebbe Sheikhet. He also gave Malchus. Anyway, what happened here was, and this is the story. So Zalman Jaffe, it was Shmuel Lu got married in Tammuz of Tashri Chav Gimel. So this is 6 months later. And he was going on business to Hong Kong. So he figured he'll do a big trip around the world. Coming back, he'll go back and visit his daughter. She was pregnant then with her first child. And he'll come for Yud Shvat to the Rebbe, which he did. Now this was the year Tovshin Chav Dalet. So the Rebbe is saying Kapitel Samach Gimel. In Samach Gimel is the pasuk Achle Lekim Demi Nafshi. So Zalman Jaffe was sitting there by the Fabrengen, and he wanted to sing. He thought it's appropriate to sing Achle Lekim Demi Nafshi. Next to him was sitting Zalman Gerari, who used to sit in the front over here, and he we gave him a knip. He pinched him every time he tried to sing. You can imagine, who are you? An Englishman is going to come from England, and he's going to unfit and say there over here. He's going to start singing. Wo das Gehört geworden? And he was in charge of Adam Mesader also. So every time Zalman Jaffe tried to start to sing the niggin, he gave him a pinch, so he couldn't sing and he couldn't do anything. At the end of the Fabrengen, on his own, the Rebbe says that he wasn't very happy. He thought someone would think about it on their own, and no one thought about it. He says, "I'm singing them Achle Likim." And how can be a whole Fabrengen and no one sang Achle Likim? He didn't say it's my capital, but you look it up in the Hanoch, and it's on the tape as well. And the Rebbe said they should sing Achle Likim. But that was the story that went behind there. That Fabrengen is a very geschmacke Fabrengen. There's a beautiful Sikha there, which I don't know why it never made it into a Likut. What the Rebbe explains that in Tanya it says the story with Rava that he would tell a joke before starting his learning. The Rebbe asked, how come the Alter Rebbe says Rava when the Girsa and the Futza is in most Gemaras and Ein Yaakov it's Rabba, not Rava. And why the Alter Rebbe chose Dafka that Girsa of Rava, and a whole beautiful explanation that the Rebbe gave then of Rava and not Rabba. Okay, so that's Tavshin Chav Dalet. Now, let's move to Toshin Lamed Hey. Toshin Lamed Hey was a very special time. 25 years was a very special occasion. The big numbers, 20, 25, 30, 40. These were special times, quarter of a century. And this was a very Lebedike Fabrengen. At the end of the Fabrengen, the Rebbe stood up. The famous movie, black and white, of the Rebbe standing up for Ufaratzta, and the Rebbe was waving his hands in all directions. This is at this Fabrengen here. Here, Rabbi Chadakov and Nuvi, Heisterich Vagessen, Rabbi Hirschsprung, Zalman Teibels, Rabbi Dubov, all of us from Manchester, Rabbi Kazanovsky, Rabbi Rifkin, Meir Avtsin, Nassim Gerari, Moshe Pinchas Katz, Yisrael Shimon Kalmanson, General Jake Goldstein, Reuven Davis, I forgot his name, Herschel Chitrik, Rabbi Oltein, Rabbi Cohen, the Cohen's grandfather, great grandfather, here's Rabbi Oltein. Okay, so this was the Rebbe Siddur. Here, now people between the Sikhs came up to the Rebbe. They brought Chassidim brought different matanis. You see, the Rebbe was very ufgelek by that Fabrengen. You can see here, the Rebbe didn't have many teeth then. You can see one of them there. This is Mayor Abraham Beam. Okay, so Mayor Beam came to the Rebbe a few times. This is when he was mayor. A few months ago, there was a Living Torah video, and he came to the Rebbe on Chav Cheshvan, Tavshin Mem, or Mem Aleph. He was already in Ois Mayor. But he came anyway. And the Rebbe then said to him, you don't have to worry about New York anymore, now that you're not the mayor. But here he came. I don't know what he gave. It looks like some sort of maybe the key to the city. I don't know. He was a friend. I remember Tavshin Lamed Zayin when it was 90 years to Timchit Tvimim. There was a big celebration on Ocean Parkway, and Mayor Beam came to Mishtatev in the celebration. Beautiful smile, the Hadaras Ponim, Hadaras Melech, very geschmack. Olivia, am I letting everybody in and doing the show, or are you going to let them in? Don't know who this is. But this photographer, whoever this was, got really close. I found these pictures years ago. Hadaras Ponim, beautiful, really beautiful. At the end of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe stood up, and this was... Now, I have a suffix whether this is that Yud Shvat or not, but I couldn't find another time when the Rebbe stood up in those years, if it was a Purim, but there wasn't a Purim. And in any case, the picture is still a good picture. You see here the bag with the panim. It's actually probably not Yud Shvat because there's different people sitting behind. So this is not Yud Shvat. So I don't know when it is. Here's Meir Harlig, here's Reb Yael, Moshe Groner, Miriam Gerdetsky, Nachum Shapiro, Zev Katz, Shlomo Zarchi, Hershel Shifrin, Rashag, Beryl Unick, Label Groner. Okay, so this is not in the Seder, but here the Rebbe is standing. You see the Rebbe is Zaydin Kapota. This is before he stood up. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's Yitosh Lamed. I don't know. This is before he stood up. This is taken from the window upstairs in Chaim Baruch's room. Upstairs, the WLCC had a window looking down. So here's Zalman Shimon Dvorkin. Looks like a Nigan. Don't know which Nigan. Meya. Kens Meya. Meya Harlig. Ever Mentlik up here. Shia Korf. Vevel Kazinitz. Don't know if you know these names. Benjamin Klein. Rechadikov. Okay, this is the back to that Farbrengen we saw before. Similar pictures. Beautiful, beautiful. Poshet Begashmias that ever looked regal. Amachayet Zazen. Let's move this out of the way. So that's that same Farbrengen. No, someone remind me, what was his name? No, Simcha Elberg, that was his name. Simcha Elberg, he was the editor of a magazine called Hamoer, and he was the head of an organization called Igud HaRabbonim, and he used to come to the Rebbe always, and the Rebbe used to do different shlichusim with him in Eretz Yisrael, Mi Yehudi, in the if you watch the Farbrengens, the Gem put out a few years ago from the Lameds, different times, you have whole conversations that the Rebbe had with him about different people in Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe covered the microphone, but it was nicht geholfen. About Mi Yehudi, he was helping the Rebbe a lot. Yeah, this was Meir Harlig's tape recorder here. So there was a second tape system besides upstairs. And here there was different gifts that were given to the Rebbe, proclamations, and these type of things. The Rebbe had them on the side of his place. And this photographer, whoever he was in a very good spot on this side of the shul. This is when the Rebbe was coming in. Here's a Beryl Baumgarten, Olav Shalom, David Raskin. I forgot his name. He used to take care of the microphones. He had a little amplifier right here. These are the windows that I mentioned earlier from Toshin Chavdalat pictures. And then there's some dignitaries, whoever these people are, government, whoever they were, they used to come for someone used to bring them. This is, what's his name? Broad. He runs 1414 today. This is a Lerman, Shimon Newbort. Wer noch do we recognize here? I don't know who this is. Okay. This is from the room of Chaim Baruch. Had a room over here, the window, and this is where Yankel Hecht sat, and he would look out and he would give the translation on WEVD on the radio. This is his viewpoint. Now here the Rebbe is coming out, and the Rebbe is holding the bags of the panel, that pictures we saw before. And as the Rebbe would get up, I think we did this a few months ago, the Elam, the kids, everyone was there over here, would jump and chap the Shirayim. As you can see, the Rebbe would escape, would get out quick. And sometimes the Rebbe would run and put down the bag simply because he didn't get a proper hold of the bag. So he'd put it down while they're chopping the cake. This is Yisrael Duchman. Allah shalom. Okay. Und das ist das.
There was a request maybe for next week in the chat to go back to the picture of the window WLCC. Maybe next week we can do, maybe you can do a WLCC one as well.
Okay.
Again,
You'll explain to me what you mean later on. Good evening, Rabbi Garari. It's yours now. You're on mute.
We just the Frierdiker Rebbe once was, I think, after Shavuos, and I don't know exactly, but the lashon was that he still didn't come off the mountain yet. Today is mamish a day after Yud Shvat. We were given yesterday tremendous brachas, Yeshuas. The Rebbe used to say on the day of Stalkos is Poil Yeshuas B'Kerev Haaretz. And the Rebbe used to bet us Yud Shvat for Adas Chasidim, for Kollel Yisrael. It's also the day of the Rebbe's Messias. So we were given yesterday in America, I don't know how they talk in London, but sometimes you have to fill up your car because you're going on a trip. You say to the gasoline guy, fill me up with high test. We got filled up with tremendous brachas. The Rebbe is giving us koiches to go on a high new level that we never had till now, the koiches. But now we're going on to a higher year. A day of Aliyah is the Rebbe takes along everyone, and everyone is now on a higher level, and much more is expected from us. So we have to feel we were just given all the koiches, and now it's in our hands to make use of it and to continue living like the Rebbe wants us to live, to be really Hasidim and really give ourselves over like the whole Maimon is about with Tzivos Hashem, with the army of Hashem, army of the Rebbe. And one of the things about a soldier is you do what you're told, no ifs, no buts. Totally given over like a soldier, whatever it takes, we're ready to do it. I want to share with you, although I don't know if it's the right time and the right audience, but it's Kedai. I'll share with you some of my memories and personal interactions with the Rebbe that I think a lot of it is very important to have an understanding that the Rebbe was mamish like a father to each and every chassid. Not everybody is as old as I, and not everybody could have that picture, because you could think the Rebbe was a melech, and he was a Rebbe was on a whole, but this same Rebbe was able to relate to every chassid, to every problem, to every issue. He cared for you. You didn't have a person in your life that cared for you like the Rebbe did. So I want to share with you first. I want to go back. Some things might be entertaining too. First of all, I was Zoiche, still to be by the Frierdiker Rebbe when I was a little boy. And I was that Shabbos Pashas boy Tovshin Yud I was coming to the davening in 770. I don't remember too much, but I remember was sent home, and I came to tell my mother that we saw there everybody's crying, holding their heads against the wall, whatever. I remember that picture. I also remember, I was still a very little boy, but I remember very clearly that whole year on Shabbos. I remember the Rebbe used to get mafta, of course, but every mafta he would be crying. Every Shabbos he got mafta. It was something unbelievable. The shul was a small, very small oilem, but the Rebbe, when he got mafta, was mamish. I want to tell you a little cute story, whatever it's worth. I was a little boy, and I was playing one Shabbos, and I was playing not far from where the Rebbe's Yechidus room was. Suddenly, in the middle of the day, I'm watching I don't know what, or doing whatever what a little child could do. Suddenly, I see two Bachrim are running towards me, and they're asking me if I'm under 5. I sure was. They didn't ask me. They picked me up. I don't know how they did this, Abyssal Shabbos or whatever. They picked me up, and they brought me through the window of 770, but the Rebbe was verbringing, and the Rebbe must have asked if there's any child under 5 should say l'chaim. So I was probably the only child there then under 5. They picked me up and they plopped me by the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said I should say l'chaim. So I don't know who, but someone gave me vodka. You could imagine a little boy with a vodka. It wasn't exactly soda, but I was raised from my mother's side. My Zayda was a Polish Rebbe, and I used to go there a lot. And I knew that over there, when you say l'chaim, you give your hand. So they gave me to say l'chaim to the Rebbe, so I gave the Rebbe the hand. The Rebbe, of course, gave me back the hand, but you could imagine, first of all, the Rebbe made such a smile. He knew, like, where am I coming from? I remember the whole 770 was going on wheels. A little boy, but I saw everybody figured out, where's this boy coming from? Like, we don't do this here. He must be from the Polish. Finished. I come home. You can imagine my father told me, we don't do this over here. And, okay, I'm not doing it no more. Forget it. The next Shabbos, the Rebbe comes out, as everyone knows, that the Rebbe, when he would not with his head, good Shabbos, and he sees me, the Rebbe gives me his hand. You know, like that, how they go in Poland, good Shabbos. But I already was told no, so I'm holding my hands in the back. No, I'm not giving the hand. This was one of my first memories, but it's just interesting how this went. Bechlal, I had the zchus to go into the Rebbe from so young, from 10 years old. Every year I went into Yechidus. First it was with my father, but I used to go every year. And the Rebbe, Pasha Begashmis, without Ruach HaKodesh, the Rebbe knew everything about me, and I used every little detail he knew. He was like a part of everything, a part of the family. One time, I was a little boy. It was maybe 10 years old, Taka. And I went into my Yom Haledes was it's Shushan Purim, but this year I must have had to go in after Shushan Purim. No, I go into the Rebbe, the Rebbe asked me, did I say L'chaim by the Farbrengen, because Yom Haledes, did you come to say L'chaim? No. So what did I answer? I was by my Zayde. Yad Tish Purim. Aber sag, ich can't come and sagen L'chaim. Like, what are you hacking me? You belong here. Hast doch, ich can't come and sagen L'chaim. So from then on, every year, could you imagine this? Every year, Shushan Purim by the Farbrengen, the Rebbe would call, I should say L'chaim. From so little, he kept cheshbon that this is my Yom Haledes and I'm supposed to be here. And he used to say, I should say L'chaim. One time, I don't know exactly what year, Reb Zalman Duchman, those who remember, he used to always talk to the Rebbe, and he was like an interesting person. So he told the Rebbe that it's my Yom Haledes. And he mentioned my name, Nosson. So the Rebbe said, what does it say in the Megillah? That Achashverosh said to Esther, what's the lashon in Megillah? Ad chatzia malchus v'yinosen loch. So the Rebbe said that word, and I should say l'chaim. So that was also something. When I was a little boy, when it came to matzahs, the Rebbe asked me, do I know the 4 kashas? And I said, yes. Do you know the answer of the 4 kashas? So I answered, and the Rebbe said, so if you know the answer, why are you asking the questions? So I had to answer. This is even more interesting that it came to Lekach, and the Rebbe knew that, I could get lost in Poland. So the Rebbe once by Lekach said something like, can I help you, sir? Like, what are you standing over here? He wanted to hear me ask for Lekach. And guess what? He asked me from whom? Are you listening, Rabbi Mendel Cohen? He asked me from whom? In other words, I had to say from the Rebbe. Oh, then he gave me Lekach. So this is like interesting, like little things that were happening the year of my bar mitzvah, just to show you like how the Rebbe, listen to this story. The Rebbe used to go to Mayim Shalonu 2 or 3 times before Pesach. One time was when he used to send matzahs to Kfar Chabad. And this was the Rebbe sending for Kfar Chabad matzahs to give to his matzahs. So they had a special day where they baked, but the Rebbe used to go to that Mayim Shalom. Then, of course, the Rebbe went to his matzahs, which was baked Erev Pesach, and then before the Shkia, the earlier day, the Rebbe would take Mayim Shalom, which was a moiradike matzah haruach, that time when the Bachrim was singing Keliyata. It was a moiradike scene, a moiradike matzah. So you do that there was a Bachar, the Babich, and the Rebbe Rashab said on this Bachar that when he's taking Mayim Shalom, he has Gili Yechida. Could you imagine the Rebbe taking Mayim Shalom and all the Bachrim singing Keli Ata? It was a moedik gehoibene ruach. So I was standing with my mitzvah was on Purim, Shushan Purim, and this was Rebbe's coming back from Mayim Shalom. And I was standing there not far from the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe sees me, and the Rebbe says to me, "Du bist geworden bar mitzvah. Geh schnell, läuf to get Mayim Shalom." What's pshat? He wanted to be mechanech me, to run for a mitzvah, for a minhag, and geh schnell to go to Mayim Shalom. Okay, of course I ran, but you got to understand the picture here. Rav Mendlik Olav Shalom was the one in charge of the Rebbe's matzahs. He was standing there by Mayim Shalom. Anybody who remembers Rabbi Mentlik or knows about Rabbi Mentlik, he was such a soldier, such a chassid. He would stand by this Mayim Shalom like you can't imagine. And after the Rebbe took Mayim Shalom, the barrel, a glass barrel, was sealed, and he was standing like a policeman there. Comes running a little peep squeak. Listen to this. And I gotta take Mayim Shalom. He looked at me like, where did you fall out? Who are you? Like, the Rebbe took Mayim Shalom, and no one takes that. No one takes Mayim Shalom. The Rebbe took it, is finished. A little boy coming Mayim Shalom. So he looked at me like, what is going on? But soon as I said the Rebbe told me to take Mayim Shalom, in 2 seconds, he opens the bottle and he lets me pour in this Mayim Shalom. So, and that's a not interesting little inyanim that went on. There's a lot to talk, and I could tell you that the Rebbe, while I was a bacher, you could always write to the Rebbe, and he would answer you in Avodas Hashem in any issue, mamish, with the greatest love. When I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, before Lag Boimer, I wrote to the Rebbe about something that was bothering me. And you ready for this? The Rebbe sent out on Lag Boimer. The Rebbe wrote, underlined Lag Boimer, underlined twice. And he wrote a whole piece of Zohar. What the page is, what the daf is, and the quote of the Zohar. The Zohars of everyone knows the Rebbe used to always bring the Zohar, that how you act over here, that's how they act with you Lamayra. So the Rebbe was telling me that after Serve Hashem B'Simcha, and that was the crux of the zettel, but that the Rebbe should take on Lag Boimer, the Rebbe Lag Boimer, on the way to the oil, he lowers himself to a little nothing, and he writes him the whole Zohar, and shows him where to find it. What Kuf Pei Dalid Amid Beis. This tells you we can't even imagine the ava to a child to help him in his avodas Hashem. I'm just bringing, there's many, many more things, but I'm just giving some general ideas how the Rebbe cared about everything about you. You could always write him, you could always get answers. You felt you had a father to talk to write to, a Rebbe and a father at the same time. I could also tell you, it's interesting, the Rebbe was also very sensitive that if you wrote something private, you didn't exactly want even that the maskiras should know what he got. It's very personal. The Rebbe would tear off, and it wasn't easy. A lot of times you had to play around with the paper, tear off any private thing on the zettel that he left by him, and he wrote on the paper just what you should do. To be sensitive that you probably would. And one time, I wrote something very personal, and I was very sensitive that these maskirim, none of their business. And I wrote on the paper on I don't know, on the paper and in the envelope, ches with a circle, which means chashoi, or could mean Rabbi Chadikov, but chashoi. What happened? It never got to the maskiras. I get a call from the maskiras. Rabbi Chadikov wants to speak to you. I go into Rabbi Chadikov. He was such a ish soidi. I heard that the Frierdiker Rebbe once told him that he needs to have a ish soidi. And the Frierdiker Rebbe told him that what is a ish soidi, that you can't even tell on the guy that he has a secret, because that's what means a ish soidi. So he knew a lot of things, and very possible in the early years that all Zettlach first went to Rabbi Chadikov. Then he gave it to the maskiras. But this letter did not go to maskiras. It stayed by Rabbi Chadikov. When Rabbi Chadikov told me he has an answer for me, there's no question that he saw the letter before, because he was the Rebbe's most trusted person. And he had to know, because he would have to be masbid people things. Maybe the Rebbe told him Torah Shebal Peh on it. But the way he gave me that paper, he was trying to convince me that he has no idea what I wrote. He gave it like kalach hayat, like, I don't know, this is for you. So I'm trying to say that the Rebbe was so with you, so sensitive to your feelings, to your sensitivities. He knew what you wouldn't want to share with anybody, just with him. And that's how he acted back. I don't know, am I boring you? Or maybe I'm talking, I don't even know who I'm talking to, because I only see Rabbi Cohen and Rabbi Glickman. And the rest, I'm talking to the Vant alone. I don't even know who I'm talking to. But I'll share with you one or two more things that was very special for my whole life. When I was in Buffalo as a shliach, and as I mentioned maybe once or before, that it was a very, very tough shlichus, because I was most of the time I was working with students who bechlal are coming from homes, they don't know what is going on, they have no shaykhs l'chayra to nothing. They were brought up with hardly anything. This would be every Shabbos, every Yom Tov. I never was able to come for Tishrei, for Yom Tovim, because I felt I have no right to leave my place. Whenever I did come to New York, and Rabbi Chadikov would see me, it was like the end of the world. Because as soon as he saw me, what am I doing here? And who did you leave the shlichus? He made me so guilty. What right did I have to come to the Rebbe? Amina Tashta, he said, Ma'at Hatzon. Who did you leave your flock? How could you come? So based on this, not incidentally, so I was afraid to come to any Yom Tov. How could I come? One year I came after Tishrei. It was a very Pashas Noyach or something. I was chalishing a whole Tishrei not to be by the Rebbe, nothing. I came. So I felt I'm not allowed to come. How could I leave So I finally come, and the Rebbe says by the Farbrengen, said, doch da die nemushes, these little creepy, how do you say nemushes in English? A little bugs or little, I don't know what. that never made it for the whole Tishrei and not even for Shabbos Bereshis, he should also say L'chaim. And then he points to me, I should say L'chaim. So for heaven's sakes, you want me to be? You don't want me? You're telling me I'm in the mushes for coming now. And if I would come earlier, on who did you leave? So it was like you are torn. You didn't know what does the Rebbe want. But okay, so I want to tell you. So I'm there for all these Yom Tovim, and every time I'm there, it's not like that. There's a whole kehillah, and they're waiting for me. And the Pashut, if I go away, the kehillah is gonna be without there's no kehillah. I'm missing every Shabbos 9 for a minyan. You know what means 9 for a minyan? Could you add that up? Does it process? 9, I'm short 9. Every Shabbos, every Yontif, I have to go till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, wake up kids in their beds who don't even know what I'm talking about. Tell them, we're going to make a minyan. Same to you, Rabbi. They don't know what I'm talking about. It's the most boring thing in the world to come out of bed, drinking all night in the bars, and then to come get up to hear some Hebrew Chinese words. Anyway, so I'm short all these, always no minyan, no nothing, no yontif, nothing. To the point that Shmini Atzeres, one year, my father passed away on Rosh Hashanah. I'm coming already back after the Shivitz, not even 30 days yet. And I'm trying to get a minyan together to say Kaddish for my own father. Where in the world am I going to get a minyan? Shmini Atzeres, what is it, a jelly bean? What do you tell somebody, a student, you don't want to hit him, Shmini Atzeres. Same to you, Rabbi. Shmini Atzeres to you. So I'm going, and I went to a bar near the university to try to get some students, 11 o'clock, Shmini Atzeres, begging them. My father passed away. I need to say some service for him. They can't come. I'm sorry, Rabbi. We can't help you. So you could imagine you can't even say Kaddish for your own father. So I went into Yechidus one year and I wrote to the Rebbe that comes a Yontif. I become very lonely. So the Rebbe said, and I needed to hear this. I knew he's going to say something very positive. You don't have to be too smart to figure that out. But I needed to hear it from the Rebbe. The Rebbe said that because you're doing the work of the Rebbe the Shver, so he is you. And me. Did you hear this, guys? We are together. So, is there something more that you could want in life? So it still was bitter. It's bitter, but the Rebbe is there too. He's suffering with you. I once heard this from Rabbi Groner, Oliver Shalom, the big Rabbi Groner from Australia. And we used to go to Australia, he came to the Rebbe, and one Yechidus, the Rebbe wanted him that on the way back from America to Australia, he should stop off in some country there and do something for Yiddishkeit. I think the story was that Rabbi Groner wasn't even feeling well. And it was a very difficult Nasiya back to Australia. In those days was a major Nasiya. So I guess the Rebbe must have noticed on his face that it was very difficult for him. So the Rebbe said to him on Yechidus, and if I go with you, will that help you? The Rebbe is saying, I'll be with you. So Rabbi Groner got so emotional that he ran out of the Yechidus room. He was so touched or whatever the word, overwhelmed that the Rebbe is saying, and if I go with you, will you then go? This is what it says in Basi Lagani, that the Melech himself goes to the Mechaber. It's so negated that the Melech, not only does his Mavazvis Kollel Chassidus, the Melech goes. This is what the Rebbe does. The Rebbe is with us. Ad Kan is some of the stories. There's much more, but this will be enough for today. I hope you'll remember this because these are very Yesodistic things. Now we're middle of the Yud Gimel Ikrim, and we're up to the 10th Ikr, or the 10th Yesod of the Yud Gimel. The Rambam calls them Yesodis. And this is about that the Eibishter is watching over us. You have to know that there's an ayin roye, there's someone watching over you. You have to answer to. And in this whole Ikar goes in the whole idea of Hashgacha Pratius, which the Baal Shem Tov is megale many points in Hashgacha Pratius that every Yid and every Chassid needs to know this. The Baal Shem Tov says many things. First of all, that Hashgacha Pratius is on everything. There's nothing that happens in the world that is not Hashgacha Pratius. Everyone remembers the famous line that the Baal Shem Tov says that even a leaf that falls off a tree, when it should fall, how it should fall, where it should land, is all Hashgacha Pratius. Then the Frierdiker Rebbe brings another revolution in the Hashgacha Pratius. Not only is every little detail Hashgacha Pratius, but the Baal Shem Tov teaches that every little detail is connected to everything else. That means that a leaf that falls off a tree in one city is connected to a kangaroo in Australia. Everything is connected, and it has to happen exactly at that time, and it's negated to the whole Bria. Because it's one Eibishter, everything is one Eibishter. So everything has to be connected. Then it goes even deeper. Not only is it connected to everything that's happening now, but it's negated to everything that happened till now, and it's negated to everything that's going to happen. This is mamish mavhil. This is what the Baal Shem Tov is megala. And this is the pshat when we say on Yom Kippur and Nile, Ata Yedeya Rozei Olam. The secrets of the world, what's negated to the Eibishter, a leaf that falls off a tree where it should land. And this is so important at that moment it has to fall, and how it should fall, and it's negated to the whole Bria. It couldn't have happened a second earlier. It had to happen now, and everything that ever happened and everything that's going to happen is all connected to this little detail. This is moiradika inyan of Hashgacha Pratius that the Baal Shem Tov is megala. The truth of the matter is that if we understand how the Baal Shem Tov talks about how the Eibishter has to create everything every second. That nothing exists on its own. It doesn't even have its own existence. Then it's self understood that nothing could happen without Hashem. Who is making it happen? There is nothing but Hashem. So based on the aside that the Eibishter has to create the whole Metzius is all the Eibishter, it's self-understood that it's Hashgacha Pratis. Then comes the Rebbe and explains in Shar Yichud Vermuna, there's a famous question. The Baal Shem Tov says on the pasuk Lo'ilem Hashem Devarcha Nitzeh B'Shamayim, that what's the pshat? David HaMelech is speaking about Dvarcha, the words of the Asara Mamoros. And the Eibishter said Yehi Rakia, says David HaMelech, not only did you say it once, Yehi Rakia, and the same goes for all the Asara Mamoros, but Li'olam, the Eibishter has to say Yehi Rakia, or else there won't be no Rakia altogether. So the Alter Rebbe says, Upirish HaBaal Shem Tov. So the kasha is, why is this Pirish HaBaal Shem Tov? It's a clear Medrash Tilim. So how could the Alter Rebbe say, Upirish HaBaal Shem Tov, first bring the Medrash? What means a Pirish HaBaal Shem Tov? So for many, many years, the Rebbe used to explain, Upirish HaBaal Shem Tov doesn't only mean he translated. Upirish, the Rebbe said, comes from the word he spread out. He publicized this Torah. True, it's in the Medrash Tilim, but the Baal Shem Tov was mefarish all over the world. That's how the Rebbe taught us. 1 year, and now it's printed in the Sichos, the Rebbe said an unbelievable thing, that the way the Alter Rebbe is wording, you look into the first perek of Shah Yichud V'Amunah, and the Rebbe says the Alter Rebbe is saying something unbelievable that's not in the Medrash Tilim. And that's the title Pirish HaBaal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov has something to add on the Medrash Tilim. And that's the Chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov. And that's why Taka said, Pirish HaBaal Shem Tov. So let's try to listen to this because it's unbelievable. It could have been understood without the Baal Shem Tov that in every Dover Gashmi, okay, the Eibishter bashafsis every second. As I state in Medrash Tilim on the pasuk. But is there a connection in godliness in the details of the Gashmi? A Gashmi is made out of so many different things. Every Gashmi is different than the other Gashmi. Has all kinds of details. Has different Yesodis, and it has different ways of combination of the Yesodis. So one could think, Chas v'sholom, but it's possible to think that's Lav Dafka. The Eibishter Taka creates it. But he is in the details. The Eibishter is bli gvul. He had no shaychus to gvul. So I like remote control. The Eibishter, out of being bli gvul, he creates everything. But is he in the pratim? Comes the Alter Rebbe. If you look carefully in the words of the Alter Rebbe, he says that there is his slapshus of the Dvar Hashem in the Dover Gashmi. And the Rebbe explained that this is the whole key. That Alter Rebbe is saying that Mitzad Elikus, he's in the details too. The details are, he's in the details. Kommt der Geist in Achtus Hashem. Every Indian is a part of Achtus Hashem. It brings out another dimension in Achtus Hashem. That the Eibishter is in that prat and in that prat and in that prat. B'yemes, this is really the topic that Alter Rebbe talks later in Shah Yichud V'Emunah, when he talks about if Tzimtzum kipshutoi or Tzimtzum is not kipshutoi. What is the machloikis b'chlal? This was the machloikis. According to the Gra, in those days, the Shittas HaGra was the Eibush is not mislabish in these things. He's above it. And the Eibush is like in remote control. But in all these details, Chas v'sholom to you, it's a yiride for the Eibishter. B'meile, so Tzimtzum is kipshutoi. Where there is gvul, he's not there. He could create the gvul, but he has no shaykhs to it, like remote control. The Alter Rebbe said, no, it's based on a Zoya. The Zoya says, less asa ponimene, says the Alter Rebbe that it's a Zoya and the Arizal, that there's no nikude in the world, there's no aspect that is not a part of Hashem. How could it be? A gvul and every little detail, they be stuck bli gvul, and he's poshut betachlis apshitis. So the answer is that every little gvul is a part of his bli gvul. The emes of bli gvul is that there's nothing that he cannot be in. So it's not that the Eibusha becomes limited. It's a part of his infancy. That he's so infinite that he could be a gvul too. And that's the mordike chiddush of the Alter Rebbe in what the Baal Shem Tov was moisif on the Medrash Tehillim. I hope I explained myself. And if anybody has questions, we could talk about it later maybe, or you could ask me soon. But this is a moiridike thing that the Rebbe explains, something that he never told us before. It's like Mishnah Chayne in what's the Taich Pirush HaBaal Shem Tov. You don't have to say that the Baal Shem Tov was mefarish, he spread it out. He's saying a whole different concept. To make this a little clearer, let's understand the Beis Hamikdash. Very, very strange story. We learn Chassidus every bar mitzvah boy in his maimah, and he knows the Eibishter he's bli gvul, and he has no limits, not the time, not the space. So, what would the Eibishter want for a place for him to dwell? You open up the Torah, you look at the Chumash, how he wants the Mishkan. Something is very strange over here. This Eibishter, who has no limits whatsoever, is so picky and so choosy. Every little detail in the Beis Hamikdash, what kind of threads, what kind of color, and what's the size, every contradiction to what we know about the Eibishter, and this Eibishter wants all these most finite, rigid Mishkan for him. Or Beis Hamikdash, it doesn't fit, doesn't make any sense. What does the Rebbe say? That's exactly that idea that he's talking in every detail, and the detail is different. This is not that. And yet that's the Eibishter. He's this. Gold is not silver, and red is not green. Blue is not this. And that alone is the Eibishter. And that's why Dafke, that demonstrates the Eibishter, that he is in every gvul. And that is, and yet it's not gvul. It's gvul, and it's a part of his bli gvul. So that is the most befitting keli for what the Eibishter stands for. Like, a little bit like the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Aron in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This was, again, beyond our understanding. The Eibishter warns exactly the Kodesh HaKadoshim has to have 10 amas, to the inch, to the fraction of an inch. And the Aron has to be Amosayim v'chaitzi yarkei. If it's one little bit longer or shorter, it's not an oven. You might as well bring something else in. It's not the Aron Kodesh. Oh, yeah? So it has to be exactly that measurement. Comes the Eibishter and Torah and tells us it had that measurement, no less, no more, but that Aron was a physical Aron. And if you would bang your head against this Aron, either you break your head or you break the Aron. It's a physical Aron. And at the same time, the Aron didn't take up any space. They measured from one side of the Aron, it was still 5 amas. The other side of the, again 5 amas. How could it be 5 amas when there's a box that's taken up 2.5 amas? It doesn't make sense. The Eibishter could be finite and infinite at the same time. That's the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That means it's Kodesh HaKadoshim. That means that was a place where the Eibishter as Gvul and Bli Gvul at the same time. That means Eibishter. That was the Aron. The Mela, let's go back. So the Chiddush from the Baal Shem Tov on the Medrash Tilim is unbelievable. That there's a hislapshus in every davar Gashmi, in every detail of the Gashmi, and at the same time, this is the Eibishter alone. It's a part of his bli gvul. So B'Negeya, when we learn about Hashgacha Pratius, it gives you a whole different sense. Everything matters. And it's perfect. At that moment, at that time, everything is perfect. And everything is Negeya to everything else that ever existed and will ever exist. So a Yid, a Chassid, he has to live with this. This is what it says at Ganza Avodah. The Rebbe talked once about a mimer, a famous mimer. He gave out that Likut. The mimer, when he gave it out, the mimer was on Pashas Vayeshev. Who could remind me? It was a whole mimer of what Yankov Avinu said. V'shavti b'sholem. That mimer, the Rebbe explains that what it says during the day, we're supposed to have Kol Masecha L'Shem Shemayim and B'chol D'rochecha D'Eyu. The Rebbe said at that Siche or that mimer that during the day is even a higher madrega of Dira B'Tachtonim than durch mitzvahs. Higher. Only a Rebbe could say that. Why? Because a mitzvah, when you do a davar Gashmi, it's a hechsher of a Gashmi, it's already a hechsher of a mitzvah. It's not the uftu of during the day. When a person is in business, it's mamish chayil, it's going to stay chayil. And yet he brings the Eibishter in it. This is the highest form of the betachtoinen. So when a Yid learns about Hashgacha Pratis, that everything is Hashgacha Pratis, he lives with the Eibishter the whole day. And we're mechuyev to do that. Anyone who learns Chassidus, it's not just information, a very interesting concept. Nothing in Chassidus is to teach us concepts. This is how we're supposed to live. This is our whole life. We have to live that everything is the Eibishter. Nothing is a coincidence. The word coincidence is worse treif than chazer. Coincidence? There's no such a word. The Baal Shem Tov says, whatever you see is a lesson. Whatever you hear is a lesson. I want to share with you a very powerful story that many of you must have heard, but it's kedai to repeat it. It says in Chassidus that when you see a chesaron in someone else, for some reason you see a chesaron that somebody did something, for instance, that was wrong, you're supposed to learn a lesson from this. What's the lesson? You have that same problem. It may be in a more delicate way, but if you see somebody else has doing something wrong or whatever, Hashem is telling you, he's reminding you, you gotta fix it in yourself. Or else, why would Hashem show me someone else's weaknesses? Why should I know about it? The only explanation is because Hashem is trying to tell you, you got this and get to work. Let me share with you, you gotta hold on to your cheer because I don't know what's gonna happen when you hear this. The Mittler Rebbe. You know what means the Mittler Rebbe? The Alter Rebbe's son who became the next Rebbe. Holy of holy, what a holy tzaddik he was. One night, there was a Yechidus, the Mittler Rebbe was taking people who came in to ask for different inyanim to the Rebbe. In middle of Yechidus, the Mittler Rebbe stops the Yechidus. There's lines of people waiting for who knows how long. No one knows what's going on. He stops the Yechidus. No Yechidus. And what does the Mittler Rebbe do? He closes the door and takes a tilim and cries and being mispalel to the Eibishter. No one knows what's going on. And after who knows how long, after he finished tilim and after, he said, okay, we're continuing Yechidus. The next day, I guess one of the children of the Mittler Rebbe tried to understand, like, what happened last night. It was such an unusual thing to stop Yechidus, saying tilim. What happened? So the Mittler Rebbe answered that somebody came in to his room and wrote about a certain sin that they committed, and they needed a tikkun. They asked for a way to do tshuva for that sin. Says the Mittler Rebbe, when someone comes into my room and writes to me or tells me about something that he committed, I cannot answer that person to help him do tshuva unless I myself can find that I myself did something that is somehow, even in a remote way, I also have this problem. And when I find that I have that problem, I myself have to do tshuva, and then I could answer to that yid how he could do tshuva. But before I myself do tshuva on this problem, how can I answer him? It was a message to me first. Fix yourself first. So the Mittler Rebbe says, this guy, he didn't say guy, but this yid wrote something that I couldn't even in the most remote way, I couldn't find that I have some connection to something like that. So what was my conclusion? Then maybe I'm fooling myself. This is so amazing. Instead of saying, of course, I have no shaykhs to this. No, that cannot be. The Baal Shem Tov says whatever you hear or see is a mirror that is telling you, you got the same problem, you got to fix this first. If I can't find this, no matter what, then I am fooling myself on where I am holding. This is such a beautiful story, I can't tell you. So I went to say Tillim, I stopped, I can't go on. I gotta know how do I have a connection? So I cried today, Mr. Show me how I have some connection to this. And after saying to him, the Eibishter showed me that I have I have episode connection to something like that. And I had to do tshuva. And after I did tshuva, now I was able to continue and answer that person on Yechidus and then continue Yechidus. This is such a powerful story. The most amazing part of this story is we're talking about a tzaddik that we can't imagine. And yet, it would be very, very easy to say, what in the world do I have a shaykhus to such a sick problem? So I have no shaykhus. Nothing wrong with that. No, it can't be. Baal Shem Tov says that this is a sign. It's a mirror telling me. So it has to be I have epis of shaykhus. And when the Mittler Rebbe realized that, and he found out what his shaykhus is, then he did tshuva, and then he could answer. But before I go into a little further, I just want to say, this is, when you live with Hashgacha Pratiyus, this is Yisoidei Achsidus. There's no such a thing as a coincidence. No such thing. And if I hear something, I'm supposed to take a lesson. Either it's a lesson yes to do, a lesson not to do. And if it's I hear about somebody else's issues, the first thing I got to know is telling me that I got this issue and I got to get to work now. Because now is when I found out. Now I have to do something about it. Going back to the story, what I heard, what I'm going to
we're a little bit behind schedule.
I'm too over the schedule, you mean?
Shtickle.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got
not at all. I just want to say that some of the chevra had to leave. It's a shame they should miss out. So maybe if we save some of the good stuff, is still for next week.
Okay, everyone should be blessed. Let's remember we are now a day after we got filled up with a full tank of koiches and blessings till the next Yud Shvat. We got all that it takes. Did nothing that we didn't get. On Yud Shvat, we all got everything. We just have to unpack it. We have to make use of it. But there's no question that we got tremendous brachas and yeshuas for everything. Bonne, Chaye, Mezoine, Revicha, everything. Everyone should be blessed, and we'll continue Mitzvah Hashem next week.
Je krijgt alles, eigen benched.
Gebenched.